What are your plans for the upcoming pension plan fund spike? I know you addressed that a little bit, but
yeah, I don't know if there at this point there's the increase this time is I think it's able to be managed in the budget. It's going to make it harder with spending the excess money that we'd accumulated through the fund balance last year that we realized when we finalized the budget for last year's budget. So I think with the way we were positioned financially now, we could absorb it. It's going to get really, if it goes to what it's projected in the articles, 33 or 35%, and it's at, what is it now, 4.7 or something like that. It's real low right now, but if it goes to 33 to 35 that they're talking about, it's going to be a lot of money to have to come up with. And I think that's why a lot of these districts are really jockeying now to prepare themselves. If it becomes reality, there's going to be a way that you've got to be able to come up with that money without raising taxes to fund it.
We're just not going to be able to. It's not just our district.
It's gonna crush every district in the state. I mean, it's just not an Armstrong issue. So I can't. It's really hard for me to imagine. One of the reasons why I'm not real vocal about it is that I find it really hard to imagine that the legislatures are going to let it happen as it is without putting some sort of a solution together. But yeah, it's a serious issue. We just don't know what to do about it.
I have one thing. It's a serious issue, he's right, for every school district, but for those districts throughout the state that do long-range planning, it's going to be a little easier for them. For us, I think it's crushing.
studies show that elementary schools should be kept smaller and that secondary schools should be consolidated. Why is the ASD doing the opposite by consolidating Katanning Township Elementary with Elderton Elementary and reopening Elderton High School with smaller class sizes?
Yeah, that scenario that you just indicated is simply it's a dash for cash to come up with some money. Simply the closure of Katanning Township, and you can see the cost savings associated with an elementary school versus a secondary school, like $700,000 to realize in savings closing an elementary school and sending them to Elderton Elementary. There would have to be, and that's calculated, extra staff goes into that. So you'd see the savings of $700,000 closing that school. But opening a secondary school, $2.5 million for staff. So when you're saving $700,000 to spend $2.5 million, you can see the cost difference. So you're going to have to close a lot of elementary schools to make that move viable.
I mean, I find that whole position to be it's hypocritical. They talk about keeping schools open, and yet they're going to turn around, open a high school, and then try to close an elementary. And to be honest, it's a numbers game. They're trying to, which is the whole reason. You could almost say the Lenape issue, trying to get Lenape to go at a half day. Same thing. All they're trying to do is get kids back into the building to pull the enrollment up, so that that the cost per student, right, would drop. So, to me, it is a numbers game. That's it. That's the only reason that they want to close KT. And to be honest, I'm shocked that of those six, a couple of them even letting it go on, because prior to when we were trying to close Elderton, there was a lot of talk about what's the future for KT, because they wanted to see if that was writing on the wall too, and it wasn't at the time. So the fact that that person is reversing, just shocking.
There's some other kind of hypocritical scenarios, I guess, that are within our district also. If you just look at the West Hills campus, for the most part, our elementary schools are pretty much in line or in check. We've got some better elementary schools. They're nice schools. But when you take the West Hills complex and even Lenape Elementary, there are more kids that are located in those buildings than there are in some of our high schools. And these are, younger, harder to manage children, where you can manage better older kids. So that's part of it, to where it gets to where, the mentality, I need to have my own high school. We've compressed the elementary schools and into the campus settings, and then kind of drop the ball whenever it gets into the secondary, because we're just afraid of that movement.
They want to put KT into Elderton. Now, there's only 2 classrooms per grade in Elderton that I can remember. You said you're going to add a whole other classroom. You're going to add 30 kids, and they're really throwing education out the window, because those kids need to be taught. That's when you learn to learn, is that age bracket, and they don't seem to care about people's, the kids. Well, we said
Not just the kids at KT.
the kids at KT, can they fit out there, is my question, without overwhelming the teachers, the staff, and the building.
They said that they would fit into the building, the enrollment would fit in the building. They did have to increase the staff, so I don't know, like you're saying, they may have to increase the amount of sections for the grade levels, because obviously they need, and they could just make it so if there's 1 now, they need 2. I'm not 100% sure on how many classes and sections they have there at Elderton right now, but I know there was additional staff that was needed, that was put into the savings analysis. So they had to have more staff, so I can only imagine that they had to increase the number of sections, so to pay for they would need more staff.
Why does Katanning have inadequate facilities, such as science labs? I just threw that in.
I can remember when I first got on the board, they at Katanning Senior High School, and they didn't have they had labs that they were using or rooms that they were using for science labs that basically they had a garden hose and a 5-gallon bucket for sinks, because they didn't have appropriate rooms, and they weren't using labs for science projects, and they just had makeshift stuff thrown together. There again, I guess I don't have really a reason for it, but it's just like you can't. If one gets it, then we've got to do it for everybody, and if it's just better for nobody to get anything, I guess.
It gets back to that, what I said before when we first got on the board, Jim and I, anyhow. I felt we were at a crossroads. When I got on, I'm full of energy. I'm like, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and make everything better in the district. And that's one of the things. That's why I think we were at a major decision point. We need to decide the facilities that we currently have. Are we going to come up with a plan to put all the money back in to fix not only Katanning's facilities, but there's some other schools that are lacking too. It's not just Katanning. And so that was what we needed to do. I mean, I felt that was the point at which we needed to decide if are we going to combine some schools and build new, or we're going to put money back into renovation. So, I mean, that's my answer there, is that, I just felt that we couldn't realize any of that, because of things, just like I said before, it just kind of fell apart after we closed Elderton and then to reopen it. The last 2 years I've been on the board, we've just been, our board meetings, as most of you know, if you've attended, I mean, it's all we talk about. And it's just, bickering back and forth on one issue instead of talking about, meanwhile, all the other buildings and the students really are getting hurt because we're just focused on one issue. We're just all single issue board members, and it's really out of our control. We don't want to be, but unfortunately that's what it is.